Welcome to PushMowerRepair.com. Today we're going to show you how to replace a throttle cable in any 4-stroke mower. Here are the tools that you're going to need for the job. First of all, and most importantly, is the universal throttle cable. So it's universal, it's going to work with most mowers you come across. We also need this tool to bend the end of the line into a Z shape. And if you don't have this tool, you can also use 2 pairs of pliers. We'll show you how to do that as well. And you'll need wire cutters. This is a good example of one repair that you might have to do. We're going to replace the throttle cable on this mower because up here it's quite old and it's difficult to push. It's not really working very well. When you move the throttle up the top, you can see down the bottom of the engine that it's not really moving very well. So the first thing you have to do is remove the old throttle cable. In this case we just had 2 screws that we had to undo, and as soon as you do that it will just come away. To disconnect the throttle cable from the engine, you have to loosen this screw here at the front that holds it tight, and once you've done that you can move it out of the bracket, and then you have to tilt it up and it'll come out of there. So in this instance, when we're replacing the throttle cable, there is a hole through the side of the handlebars so that we can put a screw through and then tighten it on this side. Unfortunately it's not big enough for the screw that we want to use, so we're just going to get a drill bit and make it a bit bigger. Now that this hole's bigger, you can see the bolt comes straight through, slides onto the throttle, and you just tighten it with a nut and it's finished. Now the throttle cable is all connected, I will just mention one thing. Make sure that you don't tighten it or over tighten it too much, otherwise this lever isn't going to work well. Now we need to measure the length of the cable so that we can get it the right length to the engine. One thing that you need to look out for is that there's enough slack so that when you fold the handlebars down it doesn't bend or kink the cable. Here, if you look at the length of the cable, you can see that you got a bit of slack at the end there, and if you see here there's all this extra cable, we're going to have to cut that off. We want the end of the black casing to finish just past this top piece of the engine so that it's held in by this clip, and this metal piece at the end should extend out like this. Also have a look at your throttle position. If it's closed, it's going to be closer. Make sure you've got enough length in the cable so that it still reaches when the throttle's open. If you look at the end of the wire, when I move the throttle on the handlebars, it's going to extend. So just move the throttle position to where the wire is shortest when you're going to cut it. Then line everything up, make sure it's the right lengths, go through the things that we talked about before, and give yourself a bit of extra room. So cut the casing just in line with the edge of the air filter. That way you give yourself room to cut more off if you make any mistakes. Once you've measured it up, you got the right length, just get your wire cutters and cut straight through. Now that you've cut through the throttle cable, there shouldn't be anything extending from the end. Go up to the throttle control on the handlebars, lift it to open, and a piece of wire should extend from the end. If you notice here on the engine, it doesn't quite reach throttle control. What you need to do now is cut more of the black casing off without cutting the wire any further. And then we're going to bend the Z so that it fits in this piece properly. To remove this black casing without cutting straight through the wire, just find the position, how much you need to remove, and gently cut through it. But again, just be careful that you don't cut through the wire completely. If you have a look inside, everything's coiled up into a spring, so there's only one side that you're actually going to have to cut through with the wire clippers. So just try and find that. On this older throttle cable, it's easier to see what I was talking about before, how the casing's just wire wound up. So when you go to cut it, it's just going to break apart a gap, and you've got to find that one piece of wire that's holding everything together, and then you cut through just that without cutting the wire inside. Now that we've removed this black casing, you can see what we were talking about, how we now have the extra length in the wire so that it can connect to the throttle. What we need to do now is bend the end of this wire. So you're going to lose a little bit of length again. You want to make sure that you've got just that extra bit of space past the throttle when it's in the open position. We're going to use the Z bender tool that we showed earlier in the video. This makes it really easy. We will show you how to do it with pliers as well. There's just a hole in the bottom there. You place the wire into, then you bend it down, like so. Then you insert it into the notch just here, and again bring it down. And there you have it. So to bend it with the pliers, grab it at the end, twist down, then grab it again, and twist the opposite way. There you go. Now that we've got the bend in the end of the wire, just have to insert it into the throttle, in, down, twist it around. So before you tighten this bracket, what you want to make sure is that the throttle is in its full closed position, and also the position on the handle is fully closed. Now you'll notice that this black casing is moved a little bit more forward than we'd like, so you can pull up a tiny bit on the handle and get it in its right position. Then you just want to tighten this screw, hold the black casing in place. When you're tightening this screw, you want to make sure that it's tight enough to hold the black casing in position, but that it's not so tight that it's not going to allow the wire to move. You can see there that that's good where it is now.